So many people with these crowded resumes. It's either on one hand, it's all technical skills and there's no readability to it. There's no summary, there's no introduction, there's no getting to know you, none of that. It's not personal. It's written for a robot, it's written for an applicant tracking system. So I have those on one extreme. And then on the other extreme, I have the people that are just writing flowery poetry. They have all of these adjectives. I'm a seasoned professional with 24 years of. The company is hiring you to make them money,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, they want you to be a culture fit because a
Mhm.
toxic employee will cost them money.
Mhm.
But that's the bottom line. You're trying to get on with a for profit company. How do they stay in business? They make a profit.
Mhm.
And I'm convinced that those are the preponderance of the layoffs in tech are from the tech companies waking up and saying, this group of people over here does not make us money.
Mhm.
For the last 20 years, we've.
Hi, Albert. Welcome and thank you so much for being here. For people who don't know you, please tell everybody about you and your story.
Sure. Thanks for having me, MD. It's really a pleasure to be here. I am a data analyst. I think I can still claim that.
Mhm.
I worked actively in marketing analytics for a little over a year and a half, had jobs here and there that dealt with analytics or taught analytics in some form, worked for a podcast, did some other analytical work as I was transitioning out of the Marine Corps, which is not a standard path. And I know we'll talk about that later. But prior to being an analyst, I had spent 20 plus years in the Marine Corps. I retired
Wow.
from the service a few years ago.
Thank you so much for your service. Thank
Yeah,
you.
my pleasure.
Okay.
And, I had done some analytical work in the Marine Corps and really felt like that was the next thing that I wanted to do in my life. So after spending basically half my life in uniform, I came out, became a marketing analyst, was lucky enough to find a job very quickly because of some things that I did with my time that we'll talk about a little bit later, some things that you're showing right now, having a robust LinkedIn presence. And that provided me a very smooth transition out of the military and into a very dissimilar profession. And I,
Okay.
I didn't plan it that way, just sort of, I would say it sort of happened, but it was something that I took to that some people advised me to work on. And that really helped out a lot. So spent a year and a half or so as a marketing analyst. I built a specialization with Alteryx.
Mhm.
That was the business intelligence platform that I used the best. I was at a shop that used multiple different BI platforms. Salesforce was one, Tableau, Power BI, kind of did whatever the client wanted. And we had different specialists in different tools. I quickly became the leading specialist with the company with Alteryx, eventually acquired quite a few big name customers and some very high profile projects. And that got me onto Alteryx's radar. So at the end of 2022, I got invited to audition to be an instructor for Alteryx as they were standing up their own instructor cadre. And I've been there, got hired in January, I've been there since January of last year.
Wow. Wow. You are the Marine who smiles at spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That's a great title. I love it.
It got a, it's funny, it's ironic. It got a laugh during when I was coming out of the Marine Corps. We had a lot of transition courses and work. A lot of them would harp on interpersonal skills, being able to sell yourself. Life in the military is very team oriented. It's very self-effacing, self-deprecating almost. You're taught to give credit to your team members, to your subordinates, to basically anyone but yourself. And so that can be one of the most difficult mental blocks to someone coming out of the service and being successful in life out of uniform is being able to sell themselves and kind of toot your own horn, talk about what you do well. That was a lot of the work that we did was doing our elevator pitch and answering the question, okay, tell me about yourself for 1 to 3 minutes.
Mhm.
And I think I came up with that line on the fly at one point, got a few chuckles. I'm not much of a comedian, so anything that gets a laugh, hey, it's a winner in my book.
It's a great line.
Yeah.
That's a great line. I saw your LinkedIn profile that was great. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
this is awesome. So life in the Marine, how did you transition from the Marine to a data analyst role? And what are some of the tips you can give someone who wants to do the same?
Life in the Marine Corps it's not like it is in the movies generally. We're not constantly running around blowing things up and shooting guns, although that is definitely a part of the life. There's a lot of planning, there's a lot of training, and not the kind of the big, loud, sexy kind of training all the time. There's a lot of brilliance at the basics and getting the Marines out to train and maneuver and drive, and there's a lot of administrative stuff that goes into it. There's a lot of disciplinary stuff that goes into it. And so a lot of the life is mundane. Anyone coming out of the military will tell you, even people that come out of special forces will say 90% of their time is a bit boring.
Mhm.
The other 10% of the time is insanely thrilling. And that's kind of why we do it. A lot of us feel like we want to defend our country, but really most of us, it's a job. And it's
Mhm.
a job that we learn to enjoy. It's a job that involves a lot of sacrifices, both for us and for our families. But it's a difficult job to let go of because it gives you a very intense sense of belonging and sense of purpose.
Yeah.
It can be very difficult for service members to come out of uniform and find a similar sense of purpose in anything. That tends to be one of the bigger stumbling blocks that service members face, is finding what is that other thing that's going to mean to you what defending your country meant to you.
Wow.
And so part of it is just finding yourself, finding that second passion. You spend 20 plus years of your life doing one thing, you get very good at that one thing, hopefully. It's difficult to pick up and start again from stage zero at something that you have little or no skills. Often the skills that we teach in the military, that they don't translate to the civilian sector. And so most of us are tasked with, in our late 30s, 40s, maybe 50s, trying to learn something completely new to do for a career. It's more common now than it used to be, but it's still a pretty daunting task to pick up and start over.
Wow.
So advice that I would give, I think, is to invest in the time and energy that's required to figure out what you need to do next. Way too many veterans kind of assume that they should go and do the well-worn path. They should go become a project manager. They should go become a police officer. They could go, should go join up with family and join some family business where they know they can find employment. And that may be required. And those jobs may be exactly what you want. But for most people, I find they sort of fall into a job and they realize fairly quickly that they hate it.
Yeah.
And the thing that can prevent that in many cases is just taking the time and the energy to go through a process of finding what your next job should be.
So you went to Iraq, you went to Afghanistan.
I did.
How was it? What was the life lessons from?
Again, most of that was boring. I just because of career timing, I wound up both in Iraq and Afghanistan after most of the shooting war had passed by. There was definitely still danger there. There were still people being shot at and blown up. But I got to both of those combat theaters after the majority of the heavy combat had finished. Um, so dealt with for quite a few years. I dealt with a little bit of guilt about that, seeing many of my peers that went over there and were wounded in combat or uh, whatever happened. And yeah, you get a little bit of survivor guilt from that. Even having spent time there, even deploying to combat zones, you can get caught up in feeling like, well, I missed it and I didn't necessarily do my part. So that's a difficult thing to handle. But Realistically, I tried certainly in the latter deployment, which was to Afghanistan. I tried to make the most of all of the time that I had allotted.
Mhm.
There were a lot of people there that if they had time to burn, they would burn it. They would watch movies, they would play video games, they would sleep. Sometimes they go spend 3, 4, 5 hours a day in the gym, which can be productive or it can be a giant time suck. I tried to not only stay in shape and keep myself sharp, but also to take all of the available time and do something productive with it. And I feel like I carried that over the habits that I built there in that combat deployment to Afghanistan. I carried those over and said, this is a framework for life that I don't burn time. Time is precious. I think that was where I first started to realize that time is the most valuable commodity that you have. And that time, all the time that you get is a gift.
Wow.
So many of the habits that I developed there, while I probably don't work out or task myself with this is quite the same intensity that I had during that deployment. I definitely took a lot of habits from that deployment and that military lifestyle and carried them forward to just being productive and trying to make the most of my time, even out of uniform.
Wow. About being in shape, I follow boxing, MMA sometime. I watch
Okay.
some videos with the Marine martial art program.
Yeah.
I've never seen something like that. I watch some YouTube videos. Wow, there's nothing like that. It's so
Yeah.
intense.
It can be intense. Yeah. I'm not personally a martial arts guy. I did enough in the Marine Corps that I was meeting the standard for martial arts. But I'm much more, I enjoy lifting weights, doing CrossFit, running. Um, so yeah, not a martial arts guy. Abe Diaz, maybe you could interview him. He's much more the martial arts guy. I talk to him a lot. There are quite a lot of data analysts that do martial arts. I know that Ken G does, Joe Reese does. A lot of the big influencers are into it.
Wow.
Tom Ives, the grand old man of data influencers, he's a weightlifter like me. So I'm trying to put up numbers like him. He's like 10, 15 years older than me.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
So data analyst. Before we get to that, we have the big elephant in the room right now, AI. What's your
Mhm.
thought on AI, and how it's going to impact the field of data analytics?
The easiest prediction in the world to make is to say that the current trend is going to continue.
Mhm.
Anytime you watch, I don't know, what sporting events do you watch other than MMA? That might not be a good
Bas
example.
basketball.
Okay, basketball.
Yeah.
Anytime you watch a halftime show in basketball, listen to what the predictions are. Other than maybe Charles Barkley, who sometimes is just being an antagonist, the other commentators, what will they always predict at halftime? They will almost always predict this thing that happened in the first half, it's going
Mhm.
to keep happening in the second half and way more. That's their prediction every time. It's the easiest thing to predict. This
Mhm.
this thing we've already seen happening is going to keep happening. I see a lot of that with predictions on AI. Everything that's been happening the last few years, it's going to keep happening more and more and more. Anybody that says that, just tune it out because all they're doing is they're just extrapolating the line upward, onward, and upward. It's tough to say
Mhm.
what exactly is going to happen with AI. I find myself wondering, we see round after round of tech layoffs. I find myself wondering how much of that is powered by automation making some of the jobs redundant. I wonder if that how much of that is powered by some of these tech companies just got way too big.
Mhm.
They started funding all sorts of things that don't drive profits. And at the end of the day, capitalism always wins, and there's a reckoning where if you're not a rainmaker, if you're not driving profits, you're going to be ushered out the door. I think that obviously AI is going to continue. There's not going to be
No,
some
no slow down, no pause, like Elon Musk is asking. We need to pause a little bit.
Here's the problem. We don't control the whole world.
Yep, that's true.
We could absolutely make some draconian law in the United States or any other country could, where you say AI is capped at this level. Nobody can research AGI or anything that mimics human thought. We could have this Butlerian jihad like they have in the Dune books and have a war against the thinking machines, or Terminator Judgment Day, one of these apocalyptic futuristic predictions. You could have that in the United States. You could have some law that said all AI research is regulated by the government now.
Mhm.
The issue is there are plenty of countries out there that won't do that.
Yep, that's true.
And the developments that they make will proliferate worldwide. It's a global economy now. So if we say all stop on AI, okay, that might accomplish something. Russia's not going to say that. Eastern
Yep,
Europe is not going to say that. China is
yep,
not going to say that.
yep.
India is not going to say that. So we don't control the AI sphere. We
Yep.
control a big chunk of it, but I don't know that. I mean, Elon Musk has some great ideas, but he's big on ideas and he's short on implementation. He's not a
Yep.
politician. He doesn't have to actually govern anything other than his own companies. So, sure, great idea. Let's pause AI. How would we enforce that? What would that even look like?
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to continue. The vast majority of people and companies and government organizations that are using AI are using it responsibly,
Yes.
I think, with an eye towards at some point what should and shouldn't be done with AI. And I think that the vast majority of the things, when you dig into what AI is, when you grow up dreaming of being a data scientist,
Hmm.
and you think data science is sexiest job of the 21st century, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you actually see what machine learning is,
Hmm.
when you look at supervised learning and
Hmm.
and it says based on a historical data set, you are trying to predict a number or category.
Yeah.
And you kind of look at it and you go, really? The vast majority of things that people consider to be AI, first of all, are not actual intelligence in any way, shape, or form. It's a software executing the purpose for which it was built. And the rest of it, I don't know that you can govern it
Yeah.
necessarily. You can pass all the laws you want, and things are going to happen. People are going to do unauthorized things. And I don't know what can be done to govern or slow it down at this point. I
Right.
think at some point it's like many other things. It's like weapons. It's like you kind of have to hope that the good guys using AI will counterbalance the bad guys using AI.
Right.
Whether that's a forlorn hope, I don't know,
The genie
but that's where we are.
the genie is out of the box. It's too late.
It is, and I
Yeah.
don't know that it was ever in.
Yeah.
At what
That's true.
point should we have shut it down? Have we passed the point of no return? And if so,
Oh,
where was it? I don't think anyone can really say that.
right. It's like the internet, or it's like the smartphone, right? We live with
Yeah,
it now. Um, this is the AI revolution. And
absolutely.
talking about AI, I know there's some people talking about AI in the military.
Mhm.
Um, I don't I don't know if you following that little bit, and what's your thought on that?
Thoughts about automated weapons?
Yes, anything that we do in AI with the military industry, military field, you know.
It's all over the place. Whatever I knew at my clearance level and in the operations I was on is small potatoes compared to what they're working on the top secret level at DARPA and various other government think tanks and research centers. They're doing things that you and I on the outside will not know about for 20 or 30 years, if
Yep.
we ever know about them. AI in the military, it's all over the place. It's been there for a while. We started hearing about smart weapons in the Gulf War in 1991. That was
Mhm.
30 plus years ago. Ever since then, the evolution of warfare has been to more and more and more smart weapons, automated weapons, robotic weapons. That is definitely going to continue because that is the way to military superiority. And
Hmm.
military superiority still in this day and age fuels a lot of things, all of the other instruments of power, political, what are the other ones? Diplomatic. I'm already forgetting my lessons in the Marine Corps. But to have that military power, it enables a lot of other things.
Yeah.
No no peer country out there, United States, China, Russia, India, any of these high tech big military countries, none of them are going to kind of voluntarily say, we'll go ahead and handicap ourselves. You all do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's not an option.
Yeah.
Or you will quickly, within one generation, you'll find yourself out of the military game and on the sidelines watching. And we're not willing to do that. So it's there. It's going to stay. It is that is the price of competing militarily on the world stage right now.
Yeah. And then it has a lot of data analysis there. It has a lot of machine learning.
Absolutely,
All these drones use a lot of data processing.
they do.
And then the autonomous weapons. I don't know um, if we're gonna get to a point where they're gonna make their own decisions, or it's gonna still be human being.
To a certain extent, they already have.
Mhm.
Um, we now the United States has been responsible with our use of such things. There are levels of autonomy, and there are weapons out there, ours and other people's, that have the ability to strike without an express authorization at the moment of strike. So send a missile up into the stratosphere. It's to search for some enemy ship, and then when it sees it, it has the authorization to engage. That
Wow.
exists. That's it exists for several countries. Um, I think the United States stopped using weapons like that for a while. I'm not sure if they're back in the arsenal, but yeah, absolutely. But yeah, you can find
Uh,
all this on Wikipedia.
yeah, exactly. It's a public domain. It's a scary world out there. Yeah, it's interesting. Hopefully, um, as human being, that's one of the goal of my channel. We can come together as what I call my expression, the united people of planet Earth, which is a dream, a utopia, but it's good to dream, you know.
Sure.
Because we all in one ball, one planet, right?
Yeah.
Let's say alien visit us. They're like, hey, what you guys doing?
Either that or they're way better at it than us, and they just come in and like, all right, y'all are our serfs now.
Yeah, it's gonna be time
Yeah.
out, time out.
Better hope they're nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, data analyst is a big field. Um, so you love spreadsheet. So for someone who wants to be a data analyst, who want to start their career there, you're a data coach. What are some of the advice you can give, and what are some of the tools that they absolutely need to know?
If you're getting in, the advice that I tend to give is trying to give advice that other people aren't. You go out there on a YouTube search, you can find a raft of experts saying the first three things you need to do are to master Excel, SQL, and a BI platform.
Mhm.
Got it. That's been done to death. I don't need to reiterate that. I suppose I just did. What I try to look for, and what I realized was retiring from the Marine Corps at 45, I could start right away coding Python. I could start right away doing SQL queries. Spent all my time working on that. It's hard to get good at anything.
Yes.
It's really hard to get really good at something. You need whatever that, I've never haven't read the book, but that 10,000 hour rule, 10,000 hours to become like a world expert, peerless expert at something. You start something in your mid to late 40s, you don't have 10,000 hours
Yeah.
to practice something.
Yeah.
You don't want to be getting good at it in your late 50s and early 60s.
Yeah.
You want to get good at it now.
Mhm.
So where are the growth opportunities? The growth opportunities are not in me trying to do SQL as well as Alex Freeberg does,
Mhm.
not in me trying to do Python and create content based on that and code algorithms like Genji. It's just not going to happen. They started much earlier in life than I did.
Mhm.
I started looking around at the things that I was already kind of good at in coming out of the Marine Corps and figuring out what could I offer and what is being underserved. I started doing resumes for people, just helping friends out. Like, I'm
Mhm.
pretty good at writing them. I know what information needs to be on there. I did a good job on mine. I started helping people and reviewing their resumes.
Mhm.
I started seeing the same trends over and over, especially on entry level data analysts that they just could not figure out.
Hi guys, please don't forget to subscribe if you didn't do it so far. You can check my YouTube channel, my Udemy courses, my Amazon store. Let's take a look. So this is my YouTube. If you're not subscribed so far, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. You can like, comment, and share. And you can see here my courses on Udemy, my Amazon store, and you can watch all the other videos you like. And here, if you go on Udemy, you can see some of the courses I have here. The complete course on top 41 legit ideas to make money today, ultimate Amazon leadership principle masterclass, a brief beginner's guide to gaming, a brief introduction about America, a great course, starting a business in America as a foreigner. That's a great course with a partnership with Augusta Massey, and solar system 101 course for all level. This is one of the latest course I have, one of the highest rated course on Udemy. Don't forget to check it out. So this is a snapshot of the solar system course, just the introduction. You can take a look here. And I started with a quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson, also ended this introduction with that quote. You can also check my Amazon store at amazon.com/shop/online campus school. These are some of the Amazon product I use and or I can recommend some top pick products. For example, you can see here, this is a list of products I use in producing online campus school videos. Some headphones, microphone, USB, lightning, green screen, laptops, a lot of small equipments that that I use. Laptop stand, that's very good for the cooling of your laptop. Anyway, just link in the description. Don't forget to check it out. All right, back to the video.
And I realized that that was a shortfall, that there is a huge surplus of qualified people out there that aren't getting jobs. Well, why aren't they getting jobs? If you're qualified, if you have the skills to do the job and the job is there available
Mhm.
and the two are not marrying up, there's one of two reasons for that. Either your resume is not getting you into an interview, or when you get into an interview, you're a terrible communicator, you can't win the job.
That's true.
Those are the growth areas.
Mhm.
The people that aren't skilled, well, the information's out there for you. Go binge watch all of Alex Freeberg's videos and do what he says.
Mhm.
You'll get good enough at all of those baseline skills to where you can get employment. The shortfall there is data professionals are terrible at writing resumes,
Yep.
and they're almost as bad at
Communication.
communicating effectively in an interview. Those are the two barriers to entry for most people. And I read resume after resume where I'm just gobsmacked at the level of skills that some of these people have, especially some of these immigrants coming over to do master's programs in the United States. It's
Yep.
just staggering,
Yep.
unless they're all lying on their resumes, which I doubt. They just have an insane amount of technical skills.
Yep.
When I talk to them, they can't communicate their value. When I read their resumes, it doesn't it doesn't say hire me. It's a laundry list of technical skill. And so my challenge is to communicate to those people that what you don't need is another coding language to add to the list of 12 that you've already mastered. That's probably going to be diminishing returns at that point.
Mhm.
But possibly even like zero sum mind. You go out and you learn Julia, you're going to forget Python.
Yep.
That's not a thing, but I'm just saying. But everybody's only got so many mind bullets to fire. Your mental energy can be expanded, but it is at the end of the day a finite resource. Your time is definitely a finite resource. So the shortfall to me is people getting better at getting hired.
Mhm.
rather than getting better at crunching numbers. At a certain point, you have to understand that you're good enough to do the job, and then you need to get good at getting the job. Otherwise, it's never going to marry up. And I
Wow.
see people out there that are kind of chronically unemployable. And that the common thread with them is they cannot communicate their value, either written on the resume or verbal in person in an interview. Can't do it.
Wow. That's so well said. Yeah, you're doing a very good job in resume building. I definitely feel like that's a huge gap,
Yeah.
even for someone who is like you said, has a lot of certifications, a lot of skills. They don't know how to sell themselves, especially here in the United States. Um, yeah, you're doing a very important job there. That I really, I really, promote, I encourage, and thank you for doing
Yeah.
that because it's a huge gap. You don't need to add more skills for most people, you just,
Yeah.
and
And you
sometimes,
can see it in those videos. I mean,
yes,
you watch, when you ask people, oh, well, what do you need to be a data analyst? They're all pretty much going to tell you the same thing. It's not much. It is not much that you need as far as technical skills. Most of the experts will say the same thing. They'll say you need to be good at Excel. You need to be able to query a database, and you need to have the ability to use a BI platform. Obviously, the biggies are Tableau and Power BI. But if you get an Alteryx certification, that's great. Not to toot my own company's horn, but it definitely worked for me. If you get you know, what are the other ones? ClickSense or is there Databricks? Like any of these BI platforms, just get a certification, get an ability in one of them, and then focus on jobs that hire for that.
so
You're
when
far
you,
better off. You're far better off specializing in something,
Mhm.
and that will focus the not only your job search, because then you're out looking for things. If you're an Alteryx expert, you're out there looking for jobs that hire and use Alteryx. If you're a Tableau expert, you know that you probably are going to be very attractive to a Tableau shop. But if you try to master too many things and then you're saying, I could do this and I can do this and I can do this, and you're like at the all you can eat buffet, you're not specializing in anything.
Yep.
Your resume is never going to filter to the top of any stack. You're going to be stuck in the middle. Doesn't mean you won't get an interview, but nobody is going to pick up your resume and say, this is the one we need. And that's what you want.
That's true. It actually backfire when there you have too much things there because the hiring managers, for the most part, they're like, why you have all these skills and you cannot find a job? There's something
Yeah.
bizarre,
It
why
looks
you have all,
questionable.
yes.
It looks questionable. It's tough to read, first of all. When you have the skills section and it's like 3 inches tall on the resume, it's right at the top and it lists 14 coding languages. It's questionable. And also, yeah, the hiring manager doesn't know what they're going to get.
Yeah.
If I list 14 coding languages in order, what are the chances that I'm really good at all of them? Zero.
Yeah.
So if I'm hiring someone that if MD lists 14 coding languages on his resume and I'm hiring you, well, my shop probably uses one, maybe two of those coding languages.
Mhm.
It may be on your list, but I have no way of knowing if that's the one you're good at or if that's the one you just did a Coursera course the other day and said, the heck with it, I'll put it on my resume. No way of knowing. So
Wow.
yeah, but best to master a couple of skills, baseline skills. Get a few that are just aces that you can bust out at a moment's notice. You can hit the ground running at a job today and list those. It will focus your job search and it will focus those jobs on you as a prime candidate rather than one of many.
Yeah, this is awesome. I'm glad to have you on because now anytime I have someone who has issues with their resume, I say, hey, I know someone. I want to send you to Albert because
Absolutely.
this is good to have someone like you here. But
Appreciate you.
most people, they say when they're looking at someone's resume, like the hiring managers, they don't have time. They look at it maybe in 5, 10 seconds or a few seconds. because they have too many people, applicants and all of that. But just in a general view, how can someone build a very good resume? What's some of the advice you're giving people? I mean, I know they can still reach out to you for a one-on-one coaching,
Absolutely.
but just in general.
I'm happy. I've long ago got past the I don't want to say all of my advice on social media, even my content, anybody else's content. I'm good with it.
Thank you.
You know, Avery Smith, the data scientist, runs his own boot camp. I did an interview with him. He paid me for an hour of my time, interviewed me. I talked about resumes and networking. He's used that 1 hour interview that I did with him for the past year for his boot camp students.
Wow.
All about it. That's fine. And a lot of them come to me and contact me, and then some of them have actually hired me to write their resume. So yeah, I'm good with it. I don't. If somebody's going to go out there and aggregate all of the things that I've said on social media and spend the hours to do that, hey, awesome. You're probably better off saving your time just paying me my fee,
Yep.
and I'll write your resume for you. But hey, if you want to go find all the free content and put it together, all good. But yeah, I'm happy to give advice. Now I forgot what the question was. Anyway, that's what happens when you just talk for a living.
Yeah, it's
Um,
for
Advice for people
building
on
the
their
resume.
resumes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The number one thing I would say is make it easy to read and start with your value. If you have to cram it in, if you have space considerations where you're like, I gotta have this and I gotta have this and I gotta have this, you've already lost. You should make it readable, number one, have a logical flow, and start with where do you bring value? So many people with these crowded resumes, it's either on one hand, it's all technical skills and there's no readability to it. There's no summary, there's no introduction, there's no getting to know you, none of that. It's not personal. It's written for a robot, it's written for an applicant tracking system. So I have those on one extreme. And then on the other extreme, I have the people that are just writing flowery poetry. They have all of these adjectives. I'm a seasoned professional with 24 years of none of that sells you. You want to lead with your value. When a hiring manager is looking for an entry level data analyst, what do they want to know? First of all, they want to know that you have the baseline technical skills.
Mhm.
Second of all, they probably want to know if you have a year or two of experience, that's a bonus.
Mhm.
A lot of the jobs will list that, and a lot of job seekers will get very put off by that and say, I can't get a job because I don't have any experience. You can kind of make experience, but that's a whole other question that we can get to. But people will get scared off because the job says I need 3 years of experience and I only have one.
Mhm.
Apply anyway. Talk about your experience. I know plenty of people that have 1 year of experience or 3 years of experience, and that experience was garbage. They didn't do anything of note. They just
Yeah.
punched a clock every day for 3 years.
Yeah.
I know tons of people that have 6 months or a year worth of experience, and that experience was intense and trained them well, and they should be able to work anywhere. The number is not generally what's important. It's the quality of the experience. You got all these people out there that are doing these sort of fake internships that's really just kind of a souped up online course where they're doing projects. And I know because I've done resumes for some of them. And when I start questioning things on their resume that look a little doubtful, they kind of sheepishly admit, yeah, it wasn't, that says it was an internship. It was an internship in name only. I wasn't actually an intern. It was kind of a project based homework like thing. I'm like, okay. And so we have to work on that from there. But there are plenty of people out there that are trumpeting their X years of experience. And how much of that experience was valuable? Maybe not much. What you need to convey to a hiring manager is what's your value? If you have a year's worth of experience, explain why that was the greatest year any data analyst has ever had and why that makes you tremendously qualified to do this job, regardless of the numbers that are required. So convey your value up top, right up top from the summary. Talk about your technical skills, talk about your accomplishments, talk about your experience, and then talk about the place you want to work. Those are the four things I try to hit right away in the summary. Don't hit me with flowery adjectives. Tell me why you're going to be a good hire. The company is hiring you to make them money,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, they want you to be a culture fit because a
Mhm.
toxic employee will cost them money.
Mhm.
But that's the bottom line. You're trying to get on with a for-profit company. How do they stay in business? They make a profit.
Mhm.
And I'm convinced that those are the preponderance of the layoffs in tech are from the tech companies waking up and saying, this group of people over here does not make us money.
Mhm.
For the last 20 years, we've allowed such things to take place, but eventually capitalism is undefeated and the non-profit makers get ushered out the door. It's not always the case. I don't want anybody, don't send me hate messages. If you just got laid off and you're like, I was the leading salesperson, I got it. There are exceptions.
Yeah.
When I see these companies laying off, these companies that are profitable, Google, Microsoft,
Yeah.
and they've laid off 5,000 people. They're not laying off 5,000 people because they want to lose money. They're laying off 5,000 people to make more money. So if you're not making a profit or your team or your division or something, maybe you're doing great, but your team is not a rainmaker team, eventually the dollar wins out.
This is so good because what you're doing is not just only building, helping someone build their resume, but is a mentorship. You're like a mentor, actually. You're building the person up,
Yeah.
defining their values, learning how to communicate, all of that is not just a resume, is a huge, it's a full package.
Yeah. And I put a lot of pride into it. I keep trying to calculate my hit rate. It's really good. I will tell you that. I am amazed at the number of people that maybe I only do a written review of their resume. I'm not even talking a full rewrite. Just they send me their resume. I usually charge 20 or 30 bucks for it. It kind of fluctuates sometimes, but they send me their resume. Sometimes I'll even do it for free. Send me their resume. I write up, here's the 5 things you should fix. I hand it back to them. 2 months later, they got a job.
Wow.
It's uncanny. And one of these days, I'll actually get down and break down the numbers and say, okay, here's my hit rate for rewrites. But if you hire me to rewrite your resume, I'm invested, which is kind of funny because I don't really charge all that much money. There are definitely people out there that are getting way worse results than me that are charging twice as much as me for resumes. But even for the small sum that I charge to rewrite a resume, I'm invested. I connect with the people on LinkedIn. I mark our conversation every month or two. I'm hitting them up. Hey, how's it going? How's the job search? If they haven't got a job yet, I got a couple of people out there that it might as well be my life's mission to make sure they get hired. And
Wow.
I don't just restrict it to data analysts. I definitely get referrals from people and they say, well, I'm a project manager. Okay, I can probably work with that.
Mhm.
I had a department head from Australia that hired
Wow.
me. I had to go research how to write an Australian resume. They are totally different. Now I kind of push back on, hey, if you're not in the United States or the UK, I,
Mhm.
I can't because I spent a lot of time on that guy's resume, way more than I should have for what I got paid. But it was a point of pride, and he got a job.
Well, it is really, this is a good match with you. I think it's a great niche that you're working on the
Yeah,
resume part. This is awesome. I can feel the passion. I can feel the skills you have. Um,
yeah,
getting back to
appreciate it.
sp- getting back to spreadsheet. Why do you love
Always comes back to spreadsheets, doesn't it?
spreadsheet? Yes. Why do you love spreadsheet? Why is it important? Because most of the data analyst job is either you're going to start by spreadsheet before moving
Yeah.
to more complex stuff, but it feels like you can do a lot of things with only just spreadsheet, right?
Yes. I love the kind of the rules and the problem solving aspect of it with spreadsheets and BI software. So you name it. I love Alteryx, but I also enjoy working with Tableau. I intend to get some skills with Power BI at some point as well. Audiences out there for it. With all of these things, spreadsheets is just kind of the most relatable term to most people. In reality, I spend very little of my time working on spreadsheets. Generally, just get it into an Alteryx workflow and deal with it there.
Mhm.
But the thing that I love is the problem solving and the fact that the solution always seems like this far away. And yeah, when you get a problem and you get a giant Excel workbook and it's all messed up, there's gaps, there's
Yeah,
there's inconsistent data, there's hopefully there's not like corrupted files or anything, but that there's just problems with it. Things
yeah,
are wrong. You've
yeah,
got five pieces of information concatenated into one
yeah,
stupid column, and you've got to figure out how to parse that out.
yeah.
No matter what platform you're using, it always feels like the answer is just right around the corner.
Mm.
And all you need to do is apply the right rule or technique, function, formula, something, and you're going to make those numbers just sing. You're going to get that data set into the form where you can make magic with it. You can make visualizations and you can crack the meaning out of it.
Yeah,
And that's the thing I love the most is when you get an insight out of it that makes somebody go, oh, I had no idea we had that at our fingertips. Yep. Just just needed the right person to crack it open and figure out all its secrets for you.
it's so satisfying when you get a data set and then you clean the data, you remove all these duplicates, you remove extra space, missing values, all these things that you're talking about, formatting the date and time format,
Yeah.
putting it all nice and clean. Like that's 99% of the job. Now, when you
Yeah.
start playing with it, you're like, wow. But no one's gonna see that. But it's it's a lot of
But us nerds, right? Yeah. And I will crack my students up sometimes because we'll take a data set through a few different permutations and modifications. And then I'll say, okay, let's run the workflow. Let's just admire our handiwork. Let's just
Mhm.
look at this beautiful data set we've created. You kind of
Yeah,
scrolling through and you make a couple little bar graphs or something. Just like, all right, we did that. And some of my students get it and they have the love and they're like, yeah, that is pretty cool. And some of them kind of chuckle at it like, look at the nerd, like, geeking out over his little numbers and electrons and whatnot. But yeah, so some get it, some don't. Even those in the industry, kind of that there are some people out there that are just sort of enduring the life. But I think the people that are sort of out and about on LinkedIn, on social media, talking about data, you can't fake the love. Nobody's out there punching a clock, posting
yeah,
on LinkedIn every day about loving data analytics. Those of us that are talking about it, we get it.
yeah. That's also one of the point I don't know. I that AI can do that very well. I don't think AI will can do that right now very well, all the cleaning
Mm,
part, because you still need a human to make sense of, especially missing values. If you have
yeah,
the AI is very good if you have data, but if you don't have data, someone need to guess to figure out what can be here, how can we complete this data, how do you collect all the data. The AI cannot guess that, I think right now, but I don't know. But it just seems because once you get all the data clean, you can always find a software or an AI tool that can probably, you know, process that better than a human. But all the cleaning part, the processing, the data annotation or organizing stuff, I think we're gonna need still
yeah.
people there.
At some point, the Mark I human brain is still undefeated, and domain knowledge is still undefeated.
Yes,
You've got
domain
to
knowledge.
have
Yes,
the
yes,
experience in the domain.
yes.
And I was in marketing for 5 minutes. It was a year and a half, and then I moved on to teaching. And I sometimes regret that. There are times when I look back and I go, I really would have liked to stay there long enough to really get savvy at marketing analytics and just be kind of that peerless expert coming up. It was the right decision for me at the time, but that domain knowledge is staggering. And that was the thing I struggled to get. And I was there every day just banging my head going, all right, what's a flashlight again? What's a pixel? What's a all of these terms? And it was just killing me that I didn't after 24 years in the Marine Corps, I knew the verbiage forwards and backwards. I could speak in nothing but acronyms to other Marines and anyone that wasn't in the Marine Corps, even young Marines, would just sit there and listen to us, be like, what are you even talking about? I wanted to get there in marketing. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to speak that language.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like now I kind of have my own language. The Alteryx has a language all its own. Speaking the language of now machine learning and predictive analytics and all of these things. I'm working on natural language processing and large language models, just sort of dipping my toe in that water. So there's a lingo there. There's a lexicon that you pick up. But yeah, that's the toughest thing, especially coming from a dissimilar job. You come out of the military, you're starting over
Yeah.
with the verbiage and what people say and having to stop conversations and saying, oh, hold up, what does this term mean? And they're like, people look at you like, you're a foreigner. Like, how do you not
Yeah.
know that?
Yeah.
That I struggled with that in marketing.
Yeah. There's nothing more powerful than domain knowledge. And that's how you make sense of the data because you already know, oh, this makes sense in marketing
Yep.
or it does not.
Yeah.
And
And you can spot trends. Just don't need a BI platform always. You can just look at it, or the BI platform just exposes it to you and says, here's the histogram. And you're like, well, that's wrong.
yeah.
And I know that because
Yeah.
I know what right looks like, and that ain't it.
Yeah.
Only experience is going to give you that.
So Alteryx, my first time learning about it. So what can you share about it? Is that something like Power BI or Tableau or what is it?
No,
Okay.
there ain't nothing. So I'll quote. Did you see Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yes. Yes.
You remember Rocket when he says, "There ain't nothing like me but me." Alteryx is like Rocket. There ain't nothing but like Alteryx but Alteryx.
Okay.
There
Wow.
are some pale imitators out there. There's an open source one that I won't name, does something similar. Not Salesforce, but well, it is Salesforce, but Tableau came out with something that is kind of a very Alteryx light
Mhm.
add-on. Anyway, therein there's no substitute for Alteryx. Alteryx is a graphic user interface based business intelligence platform. So everything
Mhm.
is based on a workflow. Whereas if you go into an Excel workbook and you filter this column and you sort this column and you do this and you do that, and then it's done. And then if you go, oh, screwed up, you just changed your source data. Alteryx takes ports to the source data, pulls the data into the workflow, doesn't change the original file, database, whatever you're pulling from, but pulls from a data source and then puts the data through a series of modifications according to tools that you pull onto a canvas or a workflow. At the low end, at the easy end, you're sorting, you're filtering, you're applying a formula. Most of these things are far more intuitive than I've found they are in other platforms. Certainly more intuitive than in Excel. The formulas and functions in Alteryx, they're very easy to understand. They're robust. They run circles around other platforms, formulas and functions, and the kind of things that you have to understand. Very easy to learn Alteryx. But you can connect data streams in just a dizzying array of ways, and you can blend data together. I honestly struggled to learn SQL
Mhm.
until I learned how to do blends and joins in Alteryx. And then it was like, oh,
Wow.
that's what that thing is in SQL. Now I understand it. Once I saw it visually, that's just how I am, a visual learner.
Yeah.
Once I saw it done and I did it myself, connected the tools, and then I said, I got it. That's
Mhm.
what a left join, right join, inner join, whatever. That's what it's supposed to look like. And that's what it does with the data.
Wow.
All of that opened up new worlds to me. We have citizen data science. There are tools to do machine learning, automated machine learning, where all you do is let me pick my target variable. It tests 5 algorithms for me. I'm like, oh, well, I think that naive Bayes will do the best. And you click that. It runs, it builds a model for you, tests it, gives you the accuracy report. You feed in current data, and you're off and doing machine learning in minutes rather than coding algorithms. But if you want a coded algorithm, you click a button and it will output a complete Python coded algorithm for you if you want to put it in the IDE. So it really is it's an amazing platform. I love it. I was singing its praises long before they ever started signing my paychecks. So it really kind of a match made in heaven getting hired on there because, I was a fan before I was a member of the band.
Wow, seems to be a very good platform. Seems
Yeah,
with all the workflows, it remind me, like you said, remind me Salesforce or stuff like that, or Slack, because they have some type of workflows, but it's different tools.
very,
But
very different. Yeah,
yeah, but wow, wow, that's interesting. Another tool to learn in the list.
absolutely. Yeah. A
Do
lot
you
of a lot
think
of the training is free. So the community is free. The initial certifications are all free. So very, very approachable
do you
and very
think
easy to learn.
is that the future? Is that the platform that
I think we are way beyond the point of thinking that any one platform, software, coding
yes,
language is the future. The
yes,
future is a
multiple.
lot of them,
It's a lot of
and
them, yes.
including ones we've never heard of.
Yes, so multiple. Yeah, this is really interesting, Albert. So for a young person out there, right now is people are living a tough life, people are getting laid off.
Yeah,
A young high school student getting out, he come to you, say, "Hey, Albert, make sense of things. Give me some sense, give me some hope in life. How can I build a successful life?"
I think. Well, didn't really mean it this way. And when you told me you were going to ask me that question, I was like, oh man, what am I going to say to that? I think it relates a lot to what I said up top that time is your most valuable commodity. And by the time you realize that, half of it's gone. Hopefully not fully half for me. I'd like to live to 100. But time is your most valuable commodity. And the more years you spend wasting time, the farther behind you're going to be once you make that realization. So the sooner you get to a point where you identify what are the most important things for me to do to make my life better, whether that's in the short, medium, long term, whatever. But it's once you get beyond kind of pure pleasure seeking and into the part of your life where you start thinking long term, start making the most of your time
Mhm.
and go into every day and say, well, what are the things I can do today that are going to make the biggest difference for me, for my family, for my career, financial situation, spiritual, all of the kind of holistic things that make life great. What can you do every day to advance those things and make them better?
That's really great. That's really great. Time is the most valuable commodity we have.
Yep.
Um, I just like everything you're doing from your YouTube channel, I subscribe there and I recommend everybody to
Excellent.
subscribe.
Thank you.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
talk.
I've had some momentum going. We've kind of stalled on our way to 1,000 followers, but I'm gonna get back on there and get some more stuff.
It's very, very high quality videos. You're really
Thank
doing
you.
great. It's great.
Yeah, appreciate you.
And from the Tableau dashboards, your resume building and through your LinkedIn profile, which is great. It's one of the great profile I saw,
Awesome.
and
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of it.
yeah, like you said here on your profile, through my military career, I pursue every opportunity to solve problems through analytics. I am the only Marine I know who smiles when he sees a spreadsheet. I just want to end with that quote, which is just awesome. So thank you so much for being here, and hopefully we can keep in touch.
Absolutely, MD. You're a friend, so I'll star your conversation. In fact, I already did earlier. Uh, Highlight our conversation on LinkedIn, and we definitely got to keep it going. I appreciate you having me on the show.